Sometimes the most dangerous traps are the ones that don't look like traps at all. They don't come with warning signs, flashing red lights, or alarms that tell you to stop. They come dressed as something familiar, something comforting, something you've seen 100 times before. And one of the most insidious versions of that is when a simple message, a single text, becomes a trap. On the surface, it looks harmless. Just a ping, a notification, a line of words glowing on a screen. But what lies underneath can have the power to hook you, destabilize you, and pull you right back into a cycle you worked so hard to climb out of. You see, when a text comes from someone who has hurt you, who has manipulated you, or who has made you doubt yourself, it isn't just communication. It's bait. It's a carefully placed line in the water meant to see if you'll bite. And when you respond, even with the smallest reply, you're not just answering words. You're re-entering a system built on their terms, designed to keep you guessing, to keep you doubting, and to keep you tethered. That's why it feels so magnetic. That's why it feels almost impossible not to answer. Because the text is never just a text. It's a test. Think about how your body reacts when you see their name light up your phone. Your stomach drops. Your chest tightens. There's a flash of adrenaline. Maybe even hope. Maybe even dread. It feels urgent, doesn't it? Like you need to open it. Like you need to respond. That urgency is part of the trap. Because in that moment, the focus shifts from your healing, your peace, your progress, back to them. Suddenly, you're thinking about what they want, what they mean, what you should say, what will happen if you don't say anything at all. In a split second, you've been pulled out of your own lane and into theirs. That's how subtle the trap is. It doesn't feel like chains, but it takes away your freedom all the same. Let's be honest. Sometimes the text isn't even elaborate. It could be a single word. Hey, thinking of you. I miss you. It could be a question. How are you? Did you see this? Can we talk? And because it's so simple, it disarms you. It doesn't look harmful. But you've got to remember that the trap is not in the word itself. It's in what the word represents. It represents a cycle of manipulation, of inconsistency, of dangling affection and withdrawing it, of creating confusion so you stay hooked. That cycle doesn't disappear just because the message is short or polite. The system is still the same, and re-engaging with it means reopening the door you fought so hard to close. What makes this so tricky is the way your own mind works against you. A text can spark old memories, old emotions, old hopes. It can bring back the moments when things felt good, when you thought maybe they cared, when you convinced yourself that if you just said or did the right thing, it could all work out. And your brain starts spinning stories. Maybe they've changed. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe they finally understand. That longing, that curiosity, that hope, it's powerful. It makes the trap even stickier because it's not just about their words anymore. It's about the meaning you attach to them. But here's the hard truth. Change is not delivered in a text. Real accountability doesn't arrive as a ping on your phone. Healing in a broken relationship doesn't start with a vague message at 2 a.m. It requires consistent behavior, honesty, vulnerability, effort over time. And if the person who sent you that message has a history of withholding those things, then the text isn't a promise of change. It's a lure. It's designed to reel you back in just enough to keep you orbiting around their needs, their moods, their version of the story. That's why it's so important to see the trap for what it is. Because once you see it clearly, You don't have to fall for it. You can pause. You can breathe. You can recognize that the urgency you feel is not your truth. It's conditioning. It's the residue of being in a relationship where your attention was constantly hijacked, where you were trained to respond quickly, to smooth things over, to prove your loyalty. That conditioning doesn't go away overnight. But the more you resist the bait, the weaker it becomes. This isn't about ignoring every text you ever receive. It's about knowing the difference between healthy communication and manipulative hooks. Healthy communication respects boundaries. It comes with clarity. It doesn't demand urgency. It doesn't destabilize you. A manipulative text, on the other hand, thrives on your confusion, on your hope, on your fear of being abandoned. It's meant to stir the pot, not settle it. It's meant to remind you that they still have access to you, that they can still command your attention with a few keystrokes. That's the trap. Sometimes people ask, but what if this time they really mean it? What if I ignore them and miss a chance for closure or reconciliation or something better? And here's the thing. Closure is not something someone else gives you through a message. Closure is something you give yourself when you decide that your peace matters more than their unpredictability. Reconciliation, if it's ever possible, doesn't start with bait. It starts with accountability. And something better isn't found by walking back into the same cycle that broke you. It's found by moving forward into something new, something healthier, something that actually honors who you are. And I want you to remember this every time you don't respond. Every time you delete that message, every time you set the phone down and walk away, you're not just ignoring a text. You're reclaiming a piece of yourself. You're choosing your dignity over their drama. You're telling your nervous system, we don't live there anymore. That's powerful. That's healing. That's how you build a new story. But let's also be honest, not responding is hard. It feels unnatural. It feels like you're being rude or cold or unkind. That's part of the conditioning too. You were trained to prioritize their needs over yours, to manage their feelings, to be the one who keeps the connection alive. Breaking that pattern feels uncomfortable, even painful. But discomfort is not the same as danger. Discomfort is the sign that you're breaking free from a system that never served you. The trap loses its power the moment you name it. When you can look at that text and say, this is not a lifeline. This is bait. When you can remind yourself, this is not about love. This is about control. When you can recognize, I don't need to answer this to prove my worth. That clarity is what sets you free. And freedom doesn't come in a single moment. It comes in 1,000 choices, day after day, where you decide that your healing is more important than their access. There's also something very liberating about recognizing that silence is a complete sentence. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe politeness in exchange for manipulation. You don't owe your time, your energy, or your mental space to someone who has consistently shown they don't know how to honor it. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. It's a refusal to play the game. It's a declaration that your peace is not negotiable. So the next time your phone lights up and your heart starts racing, pause. Look at it for what it is, not an invitation to healing, but an invitation to the same old cycle. Remind yourself that you've already done the hardest part. You've already started to break free. Don't let a few words on a screen pull you back into a prison you've already escaped. The text is a trap, and you don't have to step into it again. A text can look like the simplest thing in the world, but when it comes from someone who has consistently hurt you, it is rarely simple. It is not just a word on a screen, not just a hello or I miss you. It is a deliberate action, often with hidden motives. This is where the trap begins. That message isn't a neutral attempt to connect, it's bait. It's a small hook tossed into the water to see if you'll still bite, to test whether you're still within reach. When you answer, you're not just replying. You're signaling that they still have access to you, that you're still available for the cycle they thrive on. That cycle is built on their terms, where your emotions are manipulated, your boundaries are blurred, and your attention is controlled. What makes it especially tricky is that the text doesn't scream danger. It may look kind, nostalgic, or even loving. That's why it works so well as bait. It's disguised as something you once craved from them. But beneath the words lies the same old pattern, inconsistency, manipulation, and the need to keep you orbiting around them. They're not reaching out because they've changed. They're reaching out because they want to know if they still can. And once you take that step back in, you re-enter the same system you worked so hard to escape. Recognizing a text as bait means you can see beyond the surface. It means understanding that not every message deserves your energy, and not every communication is genuine. When you identify the trap for what it is, you give yourself the power to pause, to choose differently, and to protect the peace you've been building. When your phone lights up and their name appears, your body reacts before your mind even catches up. Your heart beats faster, your stomach drops, and your thoughts begin to race. That sense of urgency, the feeling that you must respond right away, isn't truth, it's conditioning. It comes from the patterns that were built when you were in constant survival mode around them. You may have learned that ignoring them led to punishment, silent treatment, or explosive reactions. You may have been trained to believe that responding quickly proved your love, loyalty, or worth. Over time, your nervous system became wired to treat every message as an emergency, even when it isn't. That urgency is what keeps you tethered. It hijacks your focus, pulling you out of the present moment and back into their orbit. Suddenly, you're not thinking about your own peace or progress. You're thinking about how they'll interpret your silence, what they'll do if you don't reply, or what you should say to keep things calm. The trap is not only in the words they send, but also in the way your body has been conditioned to react to them. The truth is, not every message requires a response. A ping on your phone is not a command. It is simply information, neutral until you attach meaning to it. But breaking that conditioning takes practice. It takes the courage to sit with discomfort and remind yourself that your worth is not measured by how quickly you reply. Over time, when you resist the urge to respond immediately, the intensity of that urgency weakens. You begin to retrain your body and mind to understand that you are not obligated to be available to someone who has harmed you. That recognition is where freedom begins. It's easy to believe that the right message at the right time could finally give you what you've been waiting for. Closure, clarity, or proof that they've changed. That belief is powerful because it's rooted in hope, and hope can blind you to patterns that have already repeated themselves countless times. But closure doesn't come from a text that suddenly makes sense of all the pain. Closure comes from you deciding that the cycle is no longer worth your peace. Waiting for them to deliver it through words on a screen only keeps you stuck in their control. A vague message like, I miss you, or "Can we talk?" might trigger a flood of emotions. You may find yourself wondering if this is finally the moment they realize what you meant to them, if this is when they'll acknowledge the hurt, or if this is the start of something new. But change is not proven through late night texts or inconsistent outreach. Change is proven in consistent actions, accountability, and respect over time. If they haven't shown that in the past, a sudden message doesn't erase their history. When you choose not to re-engage, you're not losing an opportunity. You're reclaiming control over your healing. The decision to step away from their attempts to hook you is how you give yourself closure. It's how you decide that your future will not be dictated by their unpredictability. And reconciliation, if it were ever possible, would not start with a manipulative breadcrumb of attention. It would start with real effort and responsibility. By refusing to enter back into the system, you protect the progress you've already made and remind yourself that your healing silence often feels heavy, especially when you've been conditioned to respond, explain, or defend yourself. You may worry that not answering makes you cold, rude, or heartless, but silence, when it comes from a place of self-preservation, is not cruelty. It's clarity. It is the recognition that your energy, your time, and your peace are valuable, and you will not keep handing them over to someone who only uses them to manipulate or destabilize you. Choosing silence is not about punishing the other person, it's about protecting yourself. Every time you resist the urge to reply, you send yourself a powerful message: you matter. Your boundaries matter. Your healing matters. That choice teaches your nervous system that you are no longer under the same control you once were. Silence becomes a shield, a way of breaking the cycle without wasting another drop of energy on words that won't be honored. It's not weakness to stay quiet. It's strength to no longer play by the rules of a game you didn't agree to in the first place. The beauty of silence is that it closes doors without drama. It says what you need to say without an argument, without a fight, without reopening old wounds. Silence is final in a way words rarely are, because it can't be twisted, manipulated, or used against you. It draws a line that says, "You don't get to have access to me on your terms anymore." And though it may feel uncomfortable at first, over time it becomes liberating. It's a reminder that you don't owe anyone a response just because they demand it. You owe yourself peace. And peace is often preserved not by what you say, but by what you choose not to say. Breaking free from the pull of a toxic message is never just about ignoring a text. It's about reclaiming your life. The words on a screen may look small, but the system behind them is powerful, designed to hook you into cycles of confusion, urgency, and false hope. Seeing a text as bait allows you to step back and understand that your worth isn't defined by someone else's need for control. The urgency you feel is not truth, it's conditioning, and each time you resist it, you weaken its grip. Closure and healing aren't gifts that arrive through someone else's words. They're choices you make when you decide your peace matters more than repeating old patterns. And silence, rather than being a weakness, becomes one of the strongest boundaries you can set. It protects you, honors your growth, and makes space for something healthier. When you choose not to step back into the trap, you're not just ignoring a message. You're building a new story, one where your voice, your dignity, and your freedom finally take center stage.